It is 7:02 p.m. Thanks for your patience. As we got a little bit of a delayed start here from some work we were doing upstairs. I think Director Bennerat, our communications director, let all of you know that we've been doing these meetings in a hybrid fashion since the start of COVID, and folks are able to watch remotely and call in with matters of concern to them. We've got several different public hearings tonight that they may call in on, and they may call in with concerns of residents on one part of the agenda that involves community comment. And I just noticed we've got many scouts here tonight and probably working on merit badges and scout leaders with them as well. So welcome to all of you. Would you all want to stand up real quick and give us a shout out as to what troop you're from? Are you all from the same troop? All right, where do you meet? Shepherd of the Hills? Yeah. Okay, good.
Are you going to ask him any more questions? I'm ready.
All right, let him sound, let them say what troop they're from so the record can.
1, 2, 3.
All right, and where do you meet?
Shepherd of the Hills.
All right, thanks all of you for being here this evening. Oh, another scout? Oh, a different troop?
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Oh, I'm coming.
I'm from Troop 3089 out of Christ the King in Minneapolis.
All right, good. Yeah, welcome. Thanks for being here. All right. As I mentioned, we're doing these meetings in a hybrid fashion. People can tune in remotely. We talked a little bit about the scouts being here. Folks that are here will call on first for community comment or for the public hearings that we handle this evening. And now we'll call the meeting to order, and I'll ask our clerk, Sharon Allison, to call the roll for the council.
Councilmember Agnew. Here. Councilmember Jackson.
Here.
Councilmember Pierce.
Here.
Councilmember Risser.
Here.
Mayor Hovland.
Here. Next is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We've got a form of meeting agenda that's been published for the public and for the benefit of the council members. Is there anyone on the council or on staff that wishes to modify the agenda in any form or fashion? Is there a motion to approve the meeting agenda as published?
So moved. I second.
Member Jackson moves. Member Agnew seconds the adoption of the meeting agenda as published. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adopting the meeting agenda as published say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. The meeting agenda is adopted. We have a guide for the meeting this evening with that agenda. And now we are at community comment. And so we're going to ask folks in the audience to come up first if they have a concern they wish to address to the council. And they'll have 3 minutes. And this first gentleman up is a familiar face for all of us, and he knows he's good at remaining at 3 minutes. He's got his talks well organized when he comes in his thoughts.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Ralph Sickert. I live at 4311 Cornelia Circle. My question for the council tonight is why? Are you not crowing cock-a-doodle-doo about having reduced next year's projected tax levy from 17% down to 11%? Why is everyone around the dais not high-fiving and doing their little happy dance for a job well done? Why? Could it be because there's no reason to celebrate? Last December, following the final 2025 budget vote, the Sun-Current published my letter to the editor, and I quote, "Unfortunately, the harsh reality is that 15% levy increases may be needed to dig our way out of the fiscal sinkhole created over the last 10 years. This past week, when interviewed by a KSTP Channel 5 reporter, I'm quoted as saying, "It is likely that we will need 15% property tax increases for the foreseeable future." And as the interview ended, the KSTP reporter asked me, what could be done about the looming double-digit levy increases? And I replied, stay informed and vote. The sleight of hand and lack of transparency of this year's budget process has only reinforced my view. Unfortunately, Manager Neal, together with this council, makes staying informed almost impossible for the average voter. Sorry, Mayor. Rather than focus on waste and inefficiencies, this past year your focus has been on the optics in Edina. It's better to look good than be good. 9%. You look marvelous. What's worse, even when the council asks Manager Neal to do something, he refuses to share the simplest of schedules. So council, let me help. $1.7 million is pushed off to other taxing authorities. $2.9 million deferred to future periods, the details of which have not been shared, adding to the $70 million backlog of deferred maintenance. Now do the math. Leadership like this confirms that 15% levies will become a reality. It is not if, but when. Only an electorate that chooses to stay uninformed poo-poos this message. But then, maybe Mr. Neal was correct. It will take political change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sickert. Anyone else in the audience that wishes to address council on a matter of concern to them? Yes, ma'am. Good evening.
My name is Jan Delkelso, and I live at 5225 Grandview Square. I've been here before to talk about the streetlight replacement project in Grandview Square that wasn't necessarily a replacement project. I want to thank very much the council members who did take me up on my request to come for a visit about 9 o'clock one evening, and council members Agnew, Carolyn Jackson, and David Pierce did come over to view the situation. While there, one of the council members remarked that there was some light in the area that we were talking about in front of the building where I live, and I remarked that it was because of the lights on our building. In other words, the building's lights. So the answer is that the light from our building, the electricity that the residents pay for, was lighting the street. So that's a little wrong, but there's a bigger wrong that I really want to point out. When Councilmember Pierce and I were walking through the area, he remarked that the streetlight replacement was also an opportunity to cut costs. As I look back through the information that had been provided about this replacement project in Grandview Square, there is indeed a cost savings for the city. 46 lights had been there, 28 were going to be replaced. Great. 18 of them are going away. My question is why, of those 18, 7 were removed from in front of our building and 3 were removed from the park that faces our building. In other words, 55% of the lights were taken away. 100% of our lights, 55% of the project's lights, 100% of our lights. So the area is still dark. It's going to continue to be dark. And my question is, ladies and gentlemen, what are you going to do about it? Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll see if we can find out.
David Frankel, 4510 Lakeview Drive, Edina. I just found out today, actually out biking, that the Roslyn Park pedestrian bridge is hit again. Has a sizable dent in it. Does MnDOT know about this?
We do.
Have they inspected the bridge?
They did.
Okay. What is the schedule for that bridge replacement? There's 2 different dates on the city's website.
We'll get to that.
The other issue is the other pedestrian bridge, the Grandview pedestrian bridge. When the bridge was approved at an HRA meeting in 2021, Bill Neuendorf emphatically talked about the golf ball test. That test evidently came from the railroad, Canadian Pacific, that all the openings on that bridge cannot allow a golf ball to pass through it. Well, that bridge violates the golf ball test. I don't know if that test is true or not, but it sure would be nice to get an update on what the reality is that. I've talked to another person who works for another railroad, and they do use that golf ball test. It's an easy way for people to understand the size that is required for openings. Safety, obviously, is a huge issue for railroads. I'd like to make another comment that the press release the city put out, I think on September 11th, regarding the agreement with the U.S. Department of Justice on that bridge, mentioned the city consulted with a number of ADA consultants, experts. I got a list with data practices requests from the city of Edina, and one of those experts was the Minnesota Council on Disability. I emailed them. They did not, I repeat, did not say that bridge would be ADA compliant. So I'm not sure, there's some confusion here. It seems like the only people that claim this bridge was ADA compliant were paid consultants. I talked to 2 experienced consultants, 2 experienced architects, talked to the Minneapolis ADA planner, the U.S. Department of Justice, not to mention the Minnesota Disabilities Office, all agreed that bridge was not ADA compliant. How did this go through as being ADA compliant? I don't understand it. I haven't found anybody that would say that bridge is ADA compliant. In regards to the fire department, the ECMO truck, evidently the agreement with the University of Minnesota has lapsed. And heard the fire chief a couple of weeks ago say they don't have the staff to use it anyway. So why is that truck still sitting in Fire Station 1, not being used? Contractually, they can't touch it. I've emailed the University of Minnesota Medical School, and they don't have anything to do with it. They're the ones who own it. Also, I found out yesterday at the Minnesota Cup, there's a company, a startup called ECMO Data Analysis, that's working with the City of Edina Fire Department to use data to determine where the calls are going and the peak loads for the Edina Fire Department. The city evidently purchased it last spring. It's first I heard about it. I don't know why the city never put out a press release that the city was using the software. But the point is, it'd be nice if the fire chief or the company they bought it from or both did a public meeting to talk about the software and how it's being used and what they're going to use it for. There are plenty of real experts in Edina that understand data analytics. I'm sure would be interested in seeing how this software package works. The last thing is, the city of Edina currently has 2 fire stations that if you go into GPS, are Edina Fire Station
Mr. Frankel, you're way over time.
Okay, we have 2 Edina Fire Station number 2s.
Anyone else? Yes, sir. Come on up. I think it's, if you just have remarks to make, it's best to use the side podium and give us your name and address.
Yeah, my name is Jim Beige. I'm a small business owner right across the bridge, the UPS store, 5021 Vernon Avenue South. And I was sent a letter from my landlord saying that there's a special assessment that's going to be due, I guess, starting next year for $5,639.18. I feel like as a small business owner, we've been hit with a double whammy. That bridge being knocked out for the past, 7, 8 months.
Excuse me. I think this is going to be the subject of a public hearing later.
Yeah, so hang on, we're going to have to take this up later. So usually, if you listen to Ms. Benarott, she said that if
I
it's on
just
the
got
agenda.
in right after she made the announcement.
If there's a matter that you want to talk to the council about that's on the agenda or scheduled for a future public hearing, you can't talk about it in community comment. So you have to stick around for the public hearing
All right.
that we're going to have later on this very topic.
Know what time that will be?
I don't. I'm sorry. But we'll take your written materials if you've got a submission. Mr. Beisch? Yeah, if you can't stick around. Anyone else? Okay, and let's go to see if we have anybody online here while we're waiting for Director Milner to talk to Mr. Beisch.
I do not, sir. You can move forward with the agenda.
Anyone else wish to address the council? Okay. Our practice is that we take the comments that were made at the prior meeting and we answer those online by Friday of that same week of the council meeting. And then our city manager undertakes the responsibility for also responding to those comments at the following city council meeting. And he's going to do that this evening. And then we may be able to address some of these issues that were raised this evening as well. I'm not quite sure, but we can try.
Thank you, Your Honor. We had several questions at our at our September 16th meeting. First question was, why does the Edina Fire Department not have adequate staffing to single-handedly fight a small house fire? Our response was that national standards indicate that 16 firefighters are needed to safely fight a fire of a 2,000 square foot house. More are needed for fires if it's a bigger house than that, of course, or even a multifamily building. Staffing decisions are locally based. We try to use standards as much as we can in our policy making. Although it's not a guaranteed response, mutual aid companies count towards those national benchmarks. So that's where we are on that particular one. We're continuing to work through fire staffing, both on the firefighting side and on the EMS side. Second,
All right, well, hold on that. I think it might be beneficial for people in the audience to understand what mutual aid is. I mean, what happens if there's a fire here or in Minneapolis? We got a young scout here from Minneapolis.
Mutual aid is a practice of cities or other local governments kind of sharing between over government borders. So we have mutual aid agreements with many of our surrounding fire departments. If there's a fire that's too big for our department to fight on its own, we can always count on people from Bloomington, St. Louis Park, Eden Prairie, Hopkins, et cetera, to come and help us, and we in turn help them as well.
All right.
Second question is, what is the status of the advanced flasher for the Eden Avenue crosswalk? And I think we're proud to say it's working. It's installed. Question number 3 was, did U.S. Internet get a permit to work in Edina's right-of-way? Now that T-Mobile has acquired U.S. Internet, who's responsible for right-of-way restorations? Utilities are required to get a permit to operate in the right-of-way, the area kind of behind the curb and between the sidewalk for most homes. That's right-of-way, city right-of-way. And USI, the U.S. Internet, is putting in community broadband, so they get the ability to be in that space, but they have to cooperate with city practices and standards in order to do that. And yes, we get after them when we need to, so that they fix any bad restorations or non-restorations that they do after they after they put their stuff underground. Third question was, will the city consider a variance for the tree protection ordinance? There currently is not an appeals process, but as we have talked with council, we think there's interest in that, and when we bring back a package of ordinance changes for you, we will make sure that we have something in there regarding that issue. Finally, how is Edina's bike infrastructure paid for? Can it be built any faster? We have a utility franchise fee that residents and utility folks who use utilities, particularly only gas and electricity, pay a small surcharge on top of their regular bill that goes into the city's pedestrian and cyclist safety fund, and we use those monies to improve bike lanes, street markings, all things related to sidewalks and trails in the community as well. And could we increase the funding there? We could, but we always try to balance those charges with our taxes and our other utility kind of payments as well.
Okay.
That's what we had.
All right, let's see if we can address some of these questions that were raised this evening, because there may be some folks in the audience that are curious about what our response might be. So, Mr. Zickert, that was the first speaker, talked about our levy increase last year, which I actually think was about 8% at the end of the time we got done working on it. But we talked tonight about the preliminary levy being set at a little over 11%. And you might want to explain for folks in the audience what that means. What's a preliminary levy?
Cities in Minnesota are required to establish a preliminary levy in September, and the preliminary levy is an estimate of the tax revenues that we will need in the upcoming year, so in 2026. We adopt a number. We share that number with the county. All cities do. The county uses all of those numbers, and it's coming from schools and watershed districts, all kinds of taxing bodies, to put together the truth and taxation notices. So notices get mailed to individual taxpayer homes, and that's when you can see what your share of that tax burden is. And then the council adopts a final levy in December. And again, that's what all Minnesota cities do.
So I can tell folks in the audience and those that are watching at home that we set the preliminary levy higher this year because we're dealing with an issue of a number of firefighters that we're going to be authorizing to be hired. We've got some different studies that have been done. We wanted to make sure we had enough flexibility to be able to do what we thought was important from a community standpoint. But I can tell you that with the preliminary work that we've been doing all year, but for the firefighter issue, the preliminary levy would have been around 6.5%. So as we deal with this firefighter issue in the time to come before we get to the final levy in December, we'll be thinking carefully through with a lot of input what we're going to be doing from a final levy standpoint. Also, Manager Neal, at least this is me personally, I felt like the inference from Mr. Zickert was that we weren't very financially or fiscally responsible. And I just want to remind folks that for the past, all the years I've been on the city council, and I'd say 20 plus years, we've had a double AAA bond rating from the two rating agencies, Moody's and Standard & Poor's, and there's probably 3 dozen cities in the United States our size that have double AAA bond ratings. And we get countless numbers of awards, it seems like at least one a year from some agencies saying that we're fiscally excellent in the work that we do. We're proud of the work our fiscal people do. Our finance director's in the audience this evening. She's going to be presenting later. They do a terrific job of making sure that the citizens of Edina are well represented in terms of maintaining fiscal responsibility. And it's an important thing for all of us. We all live here. We all pay taxes here. And so we're trying to make sure that we make the best decisions that we can for everybody in our community around all of these issues that we engage in. So, Director Milner, anything more about this lighting issue? And I don't know if some of my colleagues have been over there. Have any thoughts on that lighting issue at Grandview Square?
Well, we'll take a look. With the project's complete as it was designed and bid out, and we can take a look. Like I've mentioned at this podium before, we can add lights in the future if the council directs us to add more lights. But we'll look at the levels that are out there today, and then we can address it.
Is there anything we can do about wattage? Increase the brightness? No?
No, but we've had suggestions for the owners of the buildings. There's a lot of vegetation blocking their current lights. That could help the situation. So we've offered that suggestion.
It's something I didn't get a chance to go over and see, but I want to go over and look at it too. Member Pierce, thoughts there?
Yeah. So the way I look at it, there's two issues. One is the park, and so I think that could be probably a separate issue, how dark the park is at night. But if you go over there, there's the square, and there's one side of the square that has no street lights. And so there are two, what I'll just call kind of post lights that are on the sidewalk, but that's it on that whole street. And so when I look at it, it does look like, I don't know if you want to say a configuration or a design, like a miss, if you will. And so if you go over there, you go to the street that's in front of 5225 it's the north entrance, I think it was. Yeah. You'll see it.
Okay.
For sure. And it is dark. When we were there were people walking their dogs, and everybody had a flashlight, which actually is good that you're at night walking a dog with a flashlight. But it was quite dark on that one street.
One leg
of the square. Yeah.
Square.
Yeah.
Okay. Member Agnew, any thoughts?
I understand that in this specific situation, I think part of the concern is that there was a change, right? At one point, there was more lighting, and now there is less lighting. But it also made me kind of question, like, when we look across the community, like, what is our kind of approach or our stance on the level or amount of lighting that we create versus where we have kind of lighting that's driven by the individual residents. I look in, my street and think about like the amount of lighting that is city-based versus just front porches. So I think it might be worth us even having a conversation to more broadly to make sure that we're kind of in alignment from a policy perspective. But I do understand here, like the bigger concern is they had one level of service, I'll say, one level of lighting that is no longer being supplied. And so we need to just think about, are we okay with that? Or if not, how do we rectify the situation?
Jackson?
Well, I'm going to merge my two colleagues' comments. One is 5225 is much darker than the other buildings at Grandview, and that doesn't feel fair. But it's as dark as my house is. So in that sense, it does feel fair. So what are we comparing? And so, it just doesn't feel fair for that one building to be so much darker than the other ones at Grandview. And that's kind of the experience.
Yeah, sure.
You asked the question, Mayor, about, I'm going to rephrase it, like, I think you said wattage. Is that what you said?
Yeah, wattage.
Yeah, so I think when Excel, I shouldn't blame it on Excel, someone said what we're replacing, the new lights have more lumens and they cover more. And so that may very well be that you need fewer posts than you would of the older posts. But there just are no posts on this street, on that one side, yeah. So that was kind of the way I internalized it, your question about wattage.
So could we think about adding some more lighting adjacent to the building that doesn't have any lighting of the same type? And just, it seems like the wiring is probably there, or it wouldn't be that hard to add the wiring.
We can add lights to this system. I'll go check out the lighting levels and then report back to council.
And I'll be over there some night, whether you're around or not. I'll go check it out. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Thank you. I know that Mr. Frankel, who was here, sent some emails in earlier in the week, and I don't know if you guys, I say you guys, I mean Manager Neal and Director Milner had any chance to look at some of those comments that he made by email that were the same as what he made tonight about the bridge, wondering, well, we said that we had relied on ADA experts to tell us that it was ADA compliant, and he said at least the Minnesota Council of Disabilities says it's not ADA compliant or didn't opine on it. I don't know if you've had a chance to follow up on any of those
You're
assertions
going to
or
have
not.
a work session next meeting that will have a full discussion on this matter.
Okay.
It's not appropriate for us to talk about it before that, I think.
Okay. All right. And then the ECMO truck, any,
I'm working with the fire chief, and we'll get back and answer that question.
Okay. Anybody else have anything that they picked up from the conversation that we want to deal with tonight? All right, let's move on then. We've got a consent agenda. We've got a number of items on the consent agenda. Those items are usually handled in a single motion. So in this case, there's 27 items that we can handle in a single motion. Is there anyone on the council who wishes to remove an item from the consent agenda? All right, is there a motion to adopt the items on the consent agenda in a single motion?
So moved. Second.
Member Jackson moves. Member Agnew seconds the adoption of the items on the consent agenda in a single motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the motion as stated, say aye. Aye. Opposed, carried. All of those items are adopted and approved. And then we will move on to the next portion of the agenda, which involves our public hearings. And this is a night for the Boy Scouts that happens once a year. You're going to see a kind of a rapid series of public hearings on assessments. So if we've had to go out and do weed mowing at somebody's property, there's a request by the people that did the work in the city for an assessment. If we have to remove a tree that's diseased, or a neighbor wants us to remove a tree for them, instead of hiring a tree removal service, we do that, and then they get charged back. So this is all that kind of activity tonight. Some people don't pay their utility bill on time, and so there's a collection of folks that get lumped together with respect to a public hearing on that as well. So you're going to see that coming up right now. And Tom Swenson, our Assistant Director of our Parks and Natural Resources Department, is going to take the first one, which is the weed mowing. And I think you're going to have the next one as well, and maybe more after that.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Before Mr. Swenson starts, I just wanted to remind the council that we are seeking action on these individual items tonight. Normally, we don't do that, but we are getting close to the time frame in which we've got to have things filed to the county. So that we try to give everybody as long as we possibly can to pay, and then here we are tonight, and we need some action on each one. That's all.
So to folks in the audience that aren't familiar with our processes, since COVID, for the most part, we've been taking public testimony at a public hearing and then postponing a decision on that for a couple of weeks until our subsequent meeting. But some of these items we can handle, I think, efficiently the same night that they're presented, as long as we give people the opportunity to be heard. And so we're going to proceed now. The first matter is a weed mowing special assessment, proposed weed mowing special assessment.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. In general, the weed mowing, when weeds exceed 12 inches in height in someone's yard and the yard is not mowed, then action must be taken. Noxious weed as defined by the State Commissioner of Ag shall be eradicated. When weeds exceed 12 inches in height, the weed inspector attempts to reach the property owner and eventually sends a certified letter. The owner has 10 days to comply. If that doesn't happen, park maintenance staff will cut the weeds and assess the property, the cost of labor and equipment. 9 different properties in 2025 were cut by maintenance staff. And here's the list of the property IDs with the various amounts. A couple of them were pretty large because they really hadn't been mowed all year. So they required a lot of extra labor to get them back into shape. And we received no comments on the weeds.
Okay.
So unless there's any questions.
All right, any questions for Mr. Swenson on these particular items? All right, I'm going to open it up for public testimony right now. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address this matter regarding the proposed weed mowing special assessment that Mr. Swenson has discussed in his presentation?
Lori Grotz, 5513 Park Place. I took a look at what was on the agenda here, and as far as weed mowing goes, a lot of these properties are owned perhaps by rental or corporations. The city's charging $75 an hour to send out a crew, plus the equipment and the time to mow a property. $75 an hour, it's not enough. It doesn't cover the cost for the taxpayers to pay for this. And it's far cheaper for the property owner not to hire somebody to cut it and to let the city do it. Plus, you take into account the time. Before the city cuts, according to the memo here, first they're contacted at their place, their residence or their property. Then they get a phone call. Then they get a certified letter. Then we send out a crew, $75 an hour Does anybody get their lawn cut and know what it costs? City's losing money on this. You need to double the fees, and then people will be cutting their own lawns. City's got some financial problems, and you've got to be more respectful to the taxpayers. You know, it's costing us money because people don't want to cut their grass. You've got to make some changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Groats. Appreciate the thoughts. All right, any other folks in the audience who wish to testify? Do we have anybody online that wishes to testify?
We do not.
Okay, one last chance. Anybody else want to testify? All right, is there a motion to close the public hearing in this matter?
So moved.
A second.
Member Jackson moves, Member Agnew seconds the motion to close the public hearing in this matter. Any further discussion? All those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We've got a motion that Mr. Swenson has prepared for us, embodied in Resolution 2025-95, which designates the properties for a weed mowing special assessment in improvement number WD25. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution 2025-95?
A second.
All right. Member Jackson again moves, Member Agnew again seconds the adoption of the motion to make those weed mowing special assessments to the group of folks that are identified in resolution 2025-95. Also embodied in improvement number WD-25. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the passage of the resolution 2025-95 say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. And then in terms of the issue Ms. Groats raised, Manager Neal, you might want to talk about how we have to go about the process from a state law standpoint about making sure that our charges align with the value of the work.
I can assure you that we're as frustrated about some of the aspects of this process as Ms. Groats is. But we do need, there is a standard of process that has to happen here. There's due process along the way for the property owner involved. We observe all of those. It's a plotting process that has stops and goes to it, but we comply with it, and that enables us to pass all the legal muster to get payment for this ultimately.
And Mr. Kendall, if we were to take a look at whether or not we could raise these fees, what would be the process? This is our city attorney sitting here for the Scouts.
Yeah, I think it would just be if it's on the fee schedule, it would just be a discussion for the next approval of the next fee schedule.
All right. Okay. Very good. All right. Director Swenson has the next matter as well, and that is some proposed special assessments for tree removal at certain properties. Director Swenson, go ahead.
Yep, so this one's tree removals. If the tree inspector finds and controls the spread of diseased trees, the city forester also detects safety trees and notifies the homeowner by 31 days to comply with diseased trees or public safety trees. Homeowners have the option to remove and dispose of these trees on their own or hire their own contractor. 6 properties in 2024 did not do this. And the city contracts out the removal and trimming of the trees, 9 trees in total at 6 properties. The city forester secures quotes from private contractors. The cost per tree varies greatly, as you can imagine, based on the size of the tree and where it's located on the property. And city staff does not do this work. It's all through a contractor. Recently, we updated the payment schedule because some of these trees are fairly expensive to remove. And this is the list of property IDs and trees that we're asking to assess the value back on.
Okay, very good. Questions from council members for Director Swenson? All right. This is another public hearing matter. Let's open this up now for potential public testimony. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to testify regarding Resolution 2025-96, which would provide for special assessments against 6 properties for tree removal? Hearing nothing, seeing no one coming forward, is there anyone?
I don't have anyone online, sir, but because there is a slight delay in the broadcast, I would recommend we wait a minute before moving on. My
All right.
clock shows that it's 7:43. I will come back to you when I have a caller, or 7:44, whichever's first.
Thank you.
Assistant Director Swenson has withstood the awkward 1 minute of standing time, and I still don't have a caller, so I think it's safe for you to move forward.
All right, very good. So we had nobody testifying live, nobody testifying online. Is there a motion to close the public hearing in this matter?
So moved.
Second.
Member Agnew moves, Member Pierce seconds the closing of this matter from a public testimony standpoint. Any further discussion? All those in favor of closing the public hearing on proposed resolution 2025-96 for tree removal special assessment, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. The public hearing is closed. Is there now a motion to approve resolution 2025-96 for tree removal special assessments embodied in improvement number TR-25?
So moved.
Second.
Member Agnew moves, Member Pierce seconds the adoption of the resolution as stated. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the motion as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The motion to approve resolution 2025-96 for tree removal special assessments improvements number TR-25 is approved and adopted. Next public hearing matter involves the certification of delinquent utilities, and our finance director that I mentioned earlier, Pa Tao, is here to talk about the folks that have been delinquent in the payment of their utilities, and to discuss certifying those delinquent utility bills to the county for collection.
Good evening, Mayor and Council Member. That is correct. So tonight, I have in the packet a listing of delinquent utilities. These are all utility accounts with any of our utility services for water, sewer, and storm drainage and recycling, with balances over $50 and delinquent for 30 days or longer. They have been notified in writing of the pending certification and the date of tonight's hearing. In addition to the delinquent amount, a $35 administrative fee will also be added to these delinquent accounts after tonight. Customers does have until November 21st to pay their overdue balances, which includes the $35 admin fee, until November 21st. And then after the November 21st date, staff would then send the delinquent list of any remaining accounts, as well as the resolution that we ask you to approve tonight, to the county for certification on December 1st, which will then go on their tax roll for next year, payable in 2026 to the property owners. So with this being said, after December 1st, if any residents or any customers wishes to make their delinquent utility payments, they'll have to make it with the county. Certified amounts will also have an interest rate of 6.5% that will be added once sent to the county. And all of these assessments are all a one-year assessment. Here are some stats in terms of the utility certification history over the last couple of years. Letters go out the first couple of days in September to the initial poll of delinquent accounts, and then we always see a decline of amount and accounts by tonight's hearing date, and I anticipate that by the certification date of November to the county, this amount will be in trend with previous years as well. So tonight we have 642 accounts and in the amount of $664,998. And as tonight is the public hearing, I will stand for any public testimony, and I request that after that, council adopt resolution 2025-100, certifying this year's delinquent utility bills to the county auditors for collection with the 2026 property taxes.
Any questions for Director Tao? All right. This is a public hearing matter again. I'm going to now open it up for public testimony. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to testify regarding this matter in this proposed special assessment? Comes Ms. Groats again.
Yep. Lori Groats, 5513 Park Place. This year there were 11 pages of property owners that chose not to pay their utility bills. There was just a work session today, and the consultant is discussing what the increases will be for water and sewer next year on rates, looking at 5.25% on the water, 9.25% on the sewer. We have 11 pages of people that have chosen not to pay their utility bills. The city needs the cash flow to operate. So when it said in the packet that after it's certified, there will be a 6.5% interest that's charged. Is that going forward? So in other words, are we floating a loan to all of these people at no interest? Two properties in particular stood out. 7401 York Avenue, it's the Yorkdale Townhomes Limited Partners. It's a low-income rental. Their outstanding utility bill is $43,485.72. The property taxes, $57,035. The water bill's almost as much as the property taxes. The other one is at 3400 Park Lawn Avenue, and these owners are from the Hennepin County Property Tax website, Common Bond Communities, low-income rental properties. The money that they owe the city for their utilities, $43,598.78. Their property taxes, $31,886.54. Their property taxes are $12,000 less than their utility bills. So what does the city do to try to collect these bills? Or do they just let people float along? There's a lot of people in there that have $1,500, $2,500. There's one $5,000. Why aren't they paying their bills? We need that revenue. So what's the city process? Do you just wait until the end and then certify it? And then you get the 6.5% fee? Seems to me, I don't usually look at my water bill too much because it automatically comes out of my checking account. It used to be if you didn't pay on time, is there a 10% fee that goes on to that? Yeah, might be a 10% fee. But we can't be footing these bills. How do you make the people pay their bills? Thank you.
Thank you for that. Anyone else wish to testify? Okay, let's check. No, nobody waiting online to testify. Did Ms. Grotz's comments cause anyone in the council to have a question for Director Tao? Okay. This was a public hearing matter. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Member Agnew moves. Member Jackson seconds the closure of the public hearing regarding the potential certification of delinquent utilities bills to the county for collection. Any further conversation on that and closing the public hearing? All right. All those in favor of closing the public hearing say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And then the motion that the Director Tao has requested is that we approve Resolution 2025-100 for certification of delinquent utilities bills to the county for collection. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Member Agnew moves, Member Pierce seconds the adoption of Resolution 2025-100, which would certify the delinquent utility holders to the county for collection of their utility bills. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the resolution as stated, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Resolution 2025-100, certifying the delinquent utilities bills to the county for collection, is approved. And Director Tao, before we start with Ms. Wilson, why don't you come back up for just a moment and talk a little bit about what kind of success the county has with assisting us in the collection once they go onto the special assessment rolls?
Yeah, that's a good question. Once it goes over to the county, they then put it on the property tax owners, property tax to be paid in 2026 or the next year. And like I stated, it's a 1-year assessment, so that is charged on top of the 6.5% fee. At any time, if the property owner doesn't pay this delinquent utility, it will be part of the payment due to the county at the time of the sale of the property.
Okay. And then with respect to that 6.5% penalty, I think the inference from Ms. Groats was, could you, or the implied question was, could you charge 6.5% from the time it goes delinquent as opposed to the date it gets certified?
We charge the 6.5% when it goes to the county. So
And
when
that,
it gets certified.
that is when you're legally allowed to do that? We know?
Statutory.
Statutory? That's when you can start charging interest? Mr. Kendall?
Mayor, I think you can charge late fees prior to that, and those late fees can be included in the amount certified. And then once it's certified, the interest kicks in, and that becomes part of the property tax.
All right, makes sense. And I assume we charge late fees.
We do. So until the payment is fully paid, we don't assess, sorry, wrong word. We do charge a late fee onto the customer's account until it's fully paid off.
Okay. You might think about coming back to the council too and let us know. I think you have in the past. Let us know how effective the county's been.
Yeah, I can certainly do that.
Okay. All right, very good.
Oh, Jamie. Thank you.
Oh, yes.
We have with us Jamie.
Yeah, Jamie Erickson. I'm the special assessment person here for the city. Yeah, it's 100%.
You want to hold your microphone closer?
It goes on their property taxes, and so even if we don't have very many foreclosures in the city of Edina, but you know, if a property were in forbearance or foreclosure, I believe the taxes are collected through the mortgage company. So
I think you were right, Jamie. It's ultimately 100% effective, if not close to that.
I'm pulling some background from my title experience, so that's where I'm getting my reference point there as far as that piece goes. But yes, it is 100% effective as far as it going
Upon
to
sale.
the county.
Yeah, I would assume.
It may
And
take a while.
it's not even upon sale; it's upon taxes due on October 15th and May 15th. So.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Hopefully that's helpful.
Thanks for that. Okay, Ms. Wilson. Thank you. I know this is quite scintillating for all of you out there, but we're halfway through.
Good evening, Jessica Wilson, Water Resources Manager, and I have Aquatic Vegetation Improvement AQ 25, Resolution 2025-85 this evening. This is the same one you see every year for Aquatic Services Management. This is a city-coordinated service, and these are elective services that are requested by residents and aligns with the policy in the Water Resources Management Plan. There are 4 water bodies. The first, Arrowhead Lake, and that has services assessed this year for 2024 services related to aeration and vegetation control. And that's for each of those lots that is adjacent to the lake. At Indian Head Lake, there's aeration services and DNR water use fee in 2024 that are part of that assessment for all those water bodies adjacent to the lake. For Lake Nancy, that is vegetation and algae control with some cost share with the city there for the algae portion of that work for lots adjacent to Lake Nancy. And then at Mill Pond, it's for mechanical harvesting and then also the Browndale ramp repair. This is the second of a 2-year split of that repair work. There's a tiered assessment here, and the cost is split among those tiers. That's kind of described at the bottom of that itemized roll there. And the Browndale access ramp was replaced in 2024. That was partially shared with the city and split over 2 years. So the recommendation is to adopt the resolution 2025-85 for the amounts shown for those water bodies. It's a 1-year assessment.
Excuse me. Any questions for Ms. Wilson from council? All right, stand by. This is another public hearing matter. I'm going to now open it up for public testimony. Is there anyone that wishes to testify regarding this proposed series of special assessments on these lake properties in Edina? All right, see no one coming forward. We'll turn now to the potential testifiers from the virtual world. Anything?
I don't have anyone hanging on the line with me right now, but I'd really like to give them an opportunity to call in.
Okay.
So because there is that brief delay, I would recommend we wait 1 minute. My clock shows it at 7:59. I'll come back to you at 8 p.m. or when I have a caller, whichever is first. It is now 8 p.m. and I still don't have a caller, so I think it's safe for you to move forward with the agenda, and I think that also signals the scouts' time, right? It's been an hour. Stay all night. We'd love to have you.
Yeah. All right. All right. So this was the potential assessment for aquatic vegetation removal on some of our Edina lakes. Those property owners that live on the lake are the beneficiaries here. Is there a motion to close the public hearing in this matter?
So moved.
Member Jackson moves. Member Pierce seconds the closure of the public hearing in this matter. Any further discussion? All those in favor of closing the public hearing on this matter say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. The public hearing is closed. And then the proposed resolution is Resolution 2025-85, which establishes the aquatic vegetation special assessment role embodied in improvement number AQ25. Is there a motion to adopt that resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Member Jackson moves. Member Pierce seconds the adoption of Resolution 2025-85, which is the aquatic vegetation special assessment role embodied in improvement number AQ25. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the resolution as stated say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. That resolution is approved and adopted. And we are on to the next matter. Now we are switching over to Derek Otten, our facilities manager, who has a couple of matters for us to address in terms of maintenance of 50th and France District and the Grandview District.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As you mentioned, yes, I'll be talking about 2 separate districts today. They're both our special services or maintenance districts. The first of which is number G25, that is the Grandview District. Just for some identification purposes, this district mainly lies to the west of Highway 100, with Vernon Avenue to the north, and I guess also to the western side of the border. So it's mainly retail businesses. The city does have some vested interest in there with a parking ramp, a water treatment plant, and a police impound garage. And then there is also the old public works site that's part of this as well, too. It's highlighted by that map, just some landmarks areas. We also have a shared use space with Hennepin County. That's their library and our senior center in that area. Really quickly, the assessable costs for 2024. So these costs are costs that occurred a year prior. The city upfronts those costs, and then we assess them back to the businesses. Was $64,276.97. You'll see below that the assessable square footage. That is mainly the footprint of all those businesses in that district, 433,887 square feet. We then use a calculation to break that down as a per square foot cost to assess back to these businesses. You can see it's just about 15 cents per square foot. And below we listed the 2023 costs. So you can see that the entire 2023 costs were about $5,000. The question is why the large increase from 23 to 24? We're trying to activate the area again, right? So members of our Addison Lewis, one of our business development coordinators, myself, Chad Milner, and others, met with a number of business owners in 2023, 2024, and talked about the district, about improvements that we could make and that we wanted to make. We kind of centered those around some landscaping improvements in 2024. So you'll notice that we replaced a lot of the plantings on the areas that were adjacent to the Wells Fargo, Grandview Tire and Auto, and then a little bit in front of the Walgreens and Edina Liquor area. And then we made some improvements to the parking ramp. Some people call it the Grandview ramp, others call it Jerry's ramp, amongst other names. But we had some improvements and some structural work that we had to do investigative on that to make sure that it was still operational. So a larger uptake. This is something we talked about with a number of the businesses. We reached out to all of them. A number of them met with us personally or met through Zoom with these groups. So you can kind of see that there was an uptick in cost, and we're expecting to see these costs kind of, plateau at this level. We're going to continue to make these improvements, spend a little bit of money every year as we move forward to continue to try and beautify that area. So with that, I'd like to recommend that we approve resolution number 2025-92 and improvement G50 or G25 for that area.
Very
With
good.
that, I'll stand for questions.
Yeah. Questions for Mr. Otten? Member Jackson.
So this is, we're assessing for work done in 2024?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Mr. Otten at this point in time? All right, let's open this up for public testimony. This is another public hearing matter. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address this proposed special assessment? Yes, sir. Now, come on forward. Mr. Beisch, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you're welcome.
Again, my name is Jim Beisch. I'm the owner of the UPS store right across the bridge. I don't think I had a chance to attend. I'm reaching 70, so I'm trying to retire. I don't think I got to any of those meetings that they had back in 2023. One of the concerns I have as a small business owner is that with the bridge being out, obviously it's impacted our business quite a bit. Then I felt like when I got this email from my landlord, it was like a double whammy on top of the bridge being out for about 8 months, really affecting our business, which I thought, okay, come November, it'll be open. Hopefully we'll get back to normal. Then I get this email saying there's a special assessment of, I think for our property, something like $5,000 some, which the landlord will obviously pass on to the renters. As I heard about what the special assessment was for, the landscaping improvement, I'm going, again, I don't quite know exactly how that money was spent, obviously the ramp and the landscape, but it seems like it's a bit excessive, especially to the small business owners that's been deeply impacted by the closure of the bridge. And I'm requesting the city council to take some of that into consideration and figure out a way as far as alleviating some of that cost, maybe spread it over maybe 4 or 5 years, taking into account what's happened the past year in 2024, where over half the year, all the businesses were impacted by the closure of that bridge. Thank you.
Yeah, are you in the Jerry's office building?
I'm in the, between the booze and the drugs, the Edina liquor store and the Walgreens. I'm that UPS store that's been there forever.
Okay, you're in the little strip mall there.
Yeah, I've been operating that business for 20 years, and we've been deeply affected this year.
You're the first one I've heard it described as, booze and drugs building.
That's a good way to remember it.
Yeah.
But again, my thought was we'll just suck it up and bear if the bridge needed to get replaced. We'll hang in there, and hopefully things will get back to normal. But when I got this email from my landlord, like I said, it felt like a double whammy.
Yep.
And when the city makes these plans for these assessments, whether they're taking into consideration the impact of a major closure like that on the small businesses, then on top of that, coming back to them saying, we got a surprise for you, here's another special assessment, which I don't mind getting a special assessment and making payments. I don't know how much improvement my business will have because of a ramp improvement and landscaping. And yet, when the city decides to make these special assessments, I wonder what considerations are taken into place to say, here's expenditure, here's what it's going to do for you. So this seems fair.
And is
From
that
my
is that
standpoint
fine?
right now, it doesn't seem fair. I'm asking the council to reevaluate and maybe find some ways to extend the payments over a period of time, and then to, in the future, when we're looking at something like this, where you have a bridge that's going to have a major impact, maybe a road closure, whatever, to figure out, again, get back to the businesses, what impact will this have on you guys? We're going to do some special assessments to figure out, can these small businesses handle that? And right now, it's a nip and tuck trying to handle these fees. As my expenses go up, my rent increases, my sales goes down. So.
Yeah, thanks for that. And that $5,000 bill is not the bill for the whole strip, from booze to drugs. It's from it's yours, part of it.
That's what I'm.
That's the way you're reading it.
Surmising from the email that I got.
Okay.
Obviously, I'll have to talk to my landlord as to the specifics.
Okay.
But again, when I hear about the ramp improvement and the landscaping, again, I don't see what kind of improvement that it's going to have on my business. I know the impact that the bridge had on my business.
Understood.
So.
Mr. Otten has maybe a thought there, too. But
Yeah.
Go ahead.
To answer that question, the $5,000 that he was referencing in his letter is to the entire strip mall. It's not just his business. So we assess the building owners, right? And however they work out their lease agreements with their tenants, that's between them. We really don't have anything to say with that. So I think that question about how much of his portion is has to go back to his landlord.
Okay, that's helpful. Yeah, thank you. Anyone else wish to testify regarding this proposed assessment? Anyone online? Okay. All right, is there a motion to close the public hearing in this matter?
So moved.
Member Jackson moves, Member Pierce
Second.
seconds. The
Second.
closure of the public hearing in this matter. Any further discussion? All those in favor of closing the public hearing say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Public hearing's closed. Interesting issue Mr. Beisch raised. We know there's been impact there, impact at 50th and France. Typically, we'd collect these in 1 year, but We've also done things over time in the past, like with street improvements, you know, people have, what is it, up to 15 years to pay off a street special assessment, you know? So it's probably not a conversation to hold tonight in detail, but Member Jackson?
Yes, I have a question for Director Otten. You said that this would be an ongoing, is it going to be about $64,000 every year for the next couple of years, or what will the ongoing costs be annually?
We're tracking actually a little less than that this year in 2025. The biggest portion of this cost, as I mentioned before, is A, the landscaping improvements, but B, it's really our annual operating permits for those parking ramps. So we have to have those inspected annually. That cost fluctuates a little bit depending upon what kind of maintenance we have to do. 2024 was a high maintenance year in order for us to get our annual operating permit through the city. 2025, the inspections were just done 2 weeks ago, so we'll have a better idea of that here in the next month or so.
So this is going to be not just a one-time thing, but the business owners will be seeing it next year and the year after that, likely.
Yeah, and it kind of predates me, but I believe that these assessment costs were much higher in the past, you know, not to the level they are today, but they were reflective of the times and the, I guess, cost inflation of whenever they were assessed. And a lot of the businesses were really, you know, happy about being part of that maintenance district and those improvements, trying to activate the area. So we're just trying to bring it back to what it was before. So a lot of those tenants, I don't believe, were involved in some of the engagement process, but the building owners and the property owners were, those that chose to be anyways.
Okay, thank you.
Member Pierce.
Just curious, so the liquor store is in that same strip, and so when you say the cost is allocated to the landlords of the strip, how's the liquor store?
The liquor store is assessed as well too. So we are not a tenant in that strip mall. We actually own the condo. So that is a separate PID from the rest of it. But yes, the city does pay their assessment cost for the maintenance district there, as well as the one we're going to be talking about in a moment.
Other questions for Mr. Otten, Director Otten? When to have a conversation, pre or post motion? Manager Neal, maybe a little guidance from you might be helpful. You know, because I think regardless of whether you're a tenant and you've got a traditional lease where you're going to pay your pro rata share of special assessments, or you're the owner eating it, we know that there's been impact over there for those folks. And if the council were so inclined to take that into consideration, and as Member Jackson points out, it's not just 2024, it's 2025 and it's 2026. Might we think about some kind of a program where we can help relieve some of that stress that they've been under because of reduced sales due to the bridge closure?
So I think it's worth remembering that the discussions that Mr. Otten noted happened before the project happened, right? So there's discussions that are going on about what level of additional service they want to see in their maintenance district. We add that to sort of the obligatory piece on the parking ramps, and we move it forward in good faith, right? We expend public dollars in that concentrated area with the bargain that we assess it back and we get paid at some point in the future, and we do the same at 50th and France as well. I don't recall a time actually where we have delayed them. We've had that discussion. But then they pile up because, you know.
I don't think we've ever delayed them, but maybe spread them out. I mean, delay, I guess that's another way of saying spreading it over time, but, yeah.
But our recommendation, I think, is to continue to operate this maintenance district. It has been one that Mr. Otten noted was high, kind of relatively for a number of years, and then didn't go quite dormant, but the cost went way down. Now we have a set of property owners that are more interested in kind of collective benefits, and the maintenance district tool is a really important one for us.
Do you have any sense of that strip mall that, you know, we're in there on a condo basis, we're going to pay our fair share, but the rest of that strip is all owned by a single owner? You know?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, and do we know the square footage of it? And so most of those, between Walgreens and the liquor store, most of those stores seem to be about the same size, square footage wise.
I don't know off the top of my head, but I can get that information for you. Yeah.
Okay. just thinking about his pro rata share of what that might be, and I think you made a fair point that it's,
Less than 5,000.
yeah, it's gonna be something less than 5,000, maybe 1,000, I don't know. Member Jackson?
Yes. So because these funds have already been expended and we're getting reimbursed, I think that the question is we need to reimburse the costs. But is this something that the Spark funds might be able to go for to maintain these businesses?
I'd need to talk to Mr. Neuendorf about that, but I don't think so because I think that's connected to job creation.
I think it was connected to capital improvements. I don't know if landscaping is a capital improvement.
Not typically.
No.
Not
Yeah, but I think you're making a fair point,
we're
Member
trying to do.
Jackson, about,
Yeah.
we cut the deal with the building owners, wanted these improvements. We advanced it on our nickel, and it's got to be repaid for at least 2024. Maybe we can think ahead about it for 2025.
Right, some sort of relief for these guys based on what happened in 2025 with the bridge closure.
Okay. Well, let's see if we've got a motion here. No, I'm sorry, the public hearing's closed. Sorry, Mr. Beisch. Just up here now. Okay, so we got a resolution that's being proposed by our facilities manager, Derek Houghton, and that is to adopt resolution 2025-92, the Grandview Maintenance District Annual Assessment Improvement, embodied in improvement number G-25. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Member Jackson moves, Member Pierce seconds the adoption of resolution 2025-92, which is the Grandview Maintenance District Annual Assessment by square foot, embodied in improvement number G25. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the resolution as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Resolution 2025-92 is adopted. Okay. You've got the next one too, Mr. Otten.
That's correct, yeah. So this is the second of our special services district. This is the 50th and France Avenue Business District. It's maintenance improvement number M25. Again, kind of a orientation for you. All of the areas that you're seeing there that are highlighted in that pinkish color are private businesses. The areas that are kind of outside of those private businesses on the upper portion of that photo or the north is what we call the north parking ramp. That is a public parking ramp that the city owns. And then there's also a large kind of gray box in the southern area, and that is what we consider the south parking ramp. So that's the one that's next to Lunds and Byerly's. So those are both city-owned properties. And then all of the sidewalks, obviously, streets, public pedestrian pathways, things like that, are all private-owned businesses. And there's two other kind of oddities there. There's a strip of parking in the Lunds Byerly's parking lot that the city owns. And then much like the Grandview District, we own the condo that the liquor store resides in. So just kind of identify the private business footprint. Same formulation that we have for the Grandview District, where we charge these businesses for maintenance in the district. The difference here is in 50th and France, we actually have a dedicated staff person down there. That dedicated staff person does a number of things. They remove trash from the site, aid to the overall general cleanliness of the spaces and the pedestrian and public walkways. They deal with all the snow and ice removal during the winter months, which is kind of a large portion of the cost for this. And then they really act as a liaison between the city and the businesses. You know, if the businesses see something they want to be addressed, you know, they have a person that they directly can go to down there. And so that's a big benefit to that area. Accessible costs in 2024, excuse me, $522,951 and about 37 cents, you know, the rounding error there. And then the accessible square footage of this is 452,347 square feet. Again, we're only looking at the footprints of the buildings. So if it's a multi-story building, it's only really the footprint of that building. It's not each individual story. And residential units do not count against this too. So there are a couple of apartment buildings and condos down there that are not assessed through this process. Proposed assessment for 2024 is $1.15 per square foot. And you can see actually there's a decrease from what we came back here in 2024 and assessed. That was about $570,000. And that was really, you know, attributed to a large repair project we had in the south ramp where we had some structural deficiencies. If you remember, we had to actually shut the parking ramp down for a number of weeks and months in that summer to make those repairs. We finished that work out and finished paying for that work in 2024, so some of those costs are from that. So I guess our recommendation for the night is to approve the special assessment for resolution number 2025-93 for improvement number M25. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Questions for Manager Otten? You caused me to think of something when you talked about the apartment buildings. Some of the apartment buildings down there have retail on the first floor.
That's
Those,
correct.
I assume those are getting assessed.
Yeah, so that's where that footprint comes in. So the Nolan Mains area, that is all retail on the first floor, as is I think the 50 France building too. Also where there's some cooperative apartments above, but it's all retail on the first floor that gets assessed.
Okay, good. Well, this is another public hearing matter. Let's open it up for public testimony. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to come forward and testify regarding this matter? This proposed special assessment at about $1.15 a foot, I think. Hearing no one and seeing no one coming forward, do we have anybody online?
I don't have anyone online yet. I would recommend we wait 1 minute. My clock shows that it's 8:24, so I'll come back to you when I have a caller, or 8:25, whichever's first.
All right, thank you.
It is now 8:25, and I still don't have a caller, so I think it's safe for you to move forward.
All right, very good. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2025-93, which is the 50th of France Maintenance District Annual Assessment Roll embodied in improvement number M-25? Close the public hearing? No?
We're waiting for online people to.
Oh, that's right, okay. Got ahead of myself there. Is there a motion to close the public hearing in this matter?
So moved.
A second.
We got a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Any further discussion? All those in favor of closing the public hearing say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. The public hearing is closed. The motion requested by Mr. Otten, our staff, is that we approve Resolution 2025-93, which is the 50th in France Maintenance District Annual Assessment Roll embodied in improvement number M-25. Any further discussion? Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Member Jackson moves the approval of the motion as stated.
Second.
Member Pierce seconds. Resolution 2025-93. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the motion and the resolution as stated, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Resolution 2025-93, the 50th in France Maintenance District Annual Assessment Roll embodied in improvement number M25 is approved. And then we are on to a couple of matters. Thank you, Mr. Otten. Thanks for being here. And our engineering director, Chad Milner, has the next couple of matters which involve some potential street reconstruction special assessments in some neighborhoods that we've reconstructed.
Thank you, Mayor. We're here to talk about two 2024 neighborhood street reconstruction projects. But first we'll say, what do we do to try to keep these mounts as low as possible? So we publish these maps well in advance so people can start to prepare financially for these things. We have meetings in advance. We try to do our bid documents and the production of that to get them out first. We want to be the first city out there bidding every spring. We know we create quality bid documents because it ensures less confusion, and we're getting these really tight bids. So we're doing something really well on our bid documents. And then the contractors know we're going to manage our contracts fairly. If there's errors or stuff that's different that they find in the field, we're going to treat them fairly, and all those things lead to lower assessment amounts, which you're going to see now embodied in a couple resolutions. So we'll start with the Concord B and C neighborhood roadway reconstruction. Resolution number is 2025-88. Improvement number BA464. This is the project map. It was south of Valley View Road, north of Highway 62. There are multiple funding sources within our street reconstruction projects. This is the list of those amounts. Within the street is the assessments. Right now, with our change in our assessment policy a few years ago, we're at 63.12% is what we're assessing residents for the street reconstruction portion of the project. At the public
Could I
hearing.
interrupt you for a moment, Director Milner?
Yes.
I'm looking at the agenda here, and it looks like the Concord B and C neighborhood on the agenda is reflected in improvement BA 465, but we're talking about 464, which on the agenda is shown as being related to the Southdale B neighborhood. Do we have a mistake in our agenda?
We can check that out. But I think the most important thing is the resolution number for the application of
As
these
you go
assessments.
along here, it may come clear.
Yep.
So let's just keep that in mind.
We talked about the project costs at the December 11th, 2023 public hearing. We estimated the assessment at $13,400 per residential equivalent unit, or REU. On December 19th, the council authorized that project, and tonight we're asking for an assessment amount of $9,873.69 per REU. After the packet was published, we received one voicemail giving some feedback about the assessments. We would recommend approval of the special assessment embodied in that resolution number 2025-88. And I'd stand for any questions.
Yeah,
And I'd have to check those numbers.
The resolution that's printed up is 465.
Then I'd make a motion to that effect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Jackson. All right, so what you're looking for is approval of Resolution 2025-88, which is related to the Concord B and C neighborhood roadway reconstruction improvement.
Yep, but there's a public hearing first, Mayor.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
And it's, thanks for the reminder. And that's embodied in improvement number BA 465, not 464.
Thank you for that correction.
Okay. All right, so this is a public hearing matter. Good work on keeping costs down. It's still a significant amount of money. We know that. And as did you want to talk at all about our transition period, our 16-year transition period? We're taking pressure off people over time.
Well, I mentioned the council approved the assessment policy about four years ago, and the current amount went from 100% assessments. We are now at 63.12% of the assessments. The other 36.88% is covered by the general tax
Yep.
levy within the city. So we are reducing those numbers based on that policy approved by council.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to open this up for public testimony. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to come forward and address the council on this proposed assessment? Yes, ma'am. Come on forward and give us your name and address, please, too. And pull that microphone down so it's a little bit easier to hear you. Thank you.
Linda Sonic.
Say that again, please.
Linda Sonic.
Okay.
We live at 6212 St. John's Avenue. And my main problem with this assessment is I don't think the work is done. Our water shutoff is still 6 or 7 inches above the ground, and it's my understanding they're supposed to be buried in the ground. And then also, they had to undo part of the retaining walls along our driveway, and those haven't been restored either. So I've called the project manager, and of course, they have plenty of time to finish this before the bill is due in November, but I'm just sort of, it's not done yet. Where's the punch list to make sure that everyone else's projects are done?
Did you get her address, Director Milner? Yep. And do you thoughts on that? I can answer questions. Okay, yeah, we'll do that when you're done. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Linda. Okay, anyone else? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Chris Gerton, 6109 St. John's. My calculation shows we're, as you know, assessed $9,873. At the 5% over 15 years, I'll end up paying almost $17,000 for this project. Certainly not saying it didn't have to be done. We're new to the neighborhood, so we got, this is pretty surprising to us. And just want to say in general, the amount, with having three kids in college right now and trying to figure this out is pretty tough. But anything you guys can do in the future to help keep costs down even more. I know you guys did a great job keeping costs down on this, but to just every day, my wife and I own a small business in Edina. This is real money. And it's, again, not saying it didn't have to be done, but this is not going to be easy for us to pay at all. I just want that kind of reflected in the record. Thanks.
Thanks for that. Thanks for coming in this evening, Mr. Curtin. Anyone else? Okay. Let's go to online. Nobody online. Is there a motion to close the public hearing in this matter?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We got a motion by Member Jackson, a second by Member Pierce to close the public hearing in this matter, which deals with the proposed special assessment for the roadway reconstruction project that was done in the Concord B and C neighborhood. We had a couple of issues that were raised, and we'll go back to Director Milner now to address the issues of the two concerned residents that came forward to address the council. Director Milner.
Let's vote.
Pardon me?
Vote to close the public hearing.
We didn't vote?
We didn't
Oh.
vote. I know, these
All
are
right.
a lot of public hearings
Yeah,
tonight.
all right. So all those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Public hearing is closed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, members of council. The first matter, the water shutoff in the retaining wall and driveway, we got a 2-year warranty. It's on our list. Our inspector, Mr. Brandon Freeman's aware of it, and he's working with the contractor to get it addressed. Any work on the water system's not part of the assessments, but doesn't matter. We should get it done, and we know it's in 2 items that need to be corrected, and he's working on that.
Okay. And then what about the payoff over time?
Yep, you have 15 years. You can
Yep.
either prepay a portion of it when you receive the notice before November 1st, before it's filed with the county, or you pay it off over 15 years with interest, and that's the number that that individual is referencing, that 15-year payoff.
Okay. All right, thanks for that. Any other, that prompt any comments or questions? Member Risser?
2 questions. When you noted that we had a voicemail regarding this area, was that for this area, or was it for the Southdale B? Because
Received one, like I mentioned, this one we received after the packet was published. We received it either late yesterday or early this morning.
Okay, so
we couldn't get it in the packet.
Okay, and I have not heard that.
And it wasn't assessment related or objections. It was just a comment on the overall project and similar to what the comments you heard this evening.
Okay, now if memory serves, when we were talking about the assessment and we were about to approve it for the Morningside neighborhood, 2 residents came forward and said the work was not finished, and we ended up delaying the charges for that whole neighborhood. I believe that was, I think I'm remembering it correctly, but Paul Thompson and Mindy Ellers came forward, if I've got her name right, and it demonstrated that the work was not finished, and so the billing got delayed. I'm wondering if we should be considering that in this case.
I would say not, respectfully, because that project, it was built in, half of it, remember, was part of the flood risk improvement project in Weber Park. And literally, the job wasn't completed in that case. There was restoration that needed to be done. There was a 2-year overlap on 42nd Street. So in that case, I think it did make sense for the council to decide to delay it. And it was multiple projects over a much bigger area. These are punch list items that we do on a normal basis that we would come back and fix, and it's on our list to fix.
Do you have any idea when it will get addressed?
I do not. Hopefully this year yet. Brandon's aware of it, and he will work with the contractor to get it done as soon as possible, if it's something that can be done yet this year.
Further questions? Okay. Other questions for Director Milner? All right. Director Milner has recommended that we approve Resolution 2025-88, which is the Concord B and C Neighborhood Roadway Reconstruction Special Assessment, embodied in improvement number BA-465. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the motion as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
I'm going to abstain.
Abstention, 1. The motion to approve Resolution 2025-88 relative to the Concord B&C Neighborhood Roadway Reconstruction Special Assessment Role embodied in improvement number BA 465 is approved and adopted.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask for clarification on who made the motion and who seconded? I'm sorry.
I think it was
On
Member
special
Jackson and Member
assessment.
Pierce.
Oh, that was for closing the public hearing. So we need a motion for closing the
I'll
public
move the
hearing.
resolution.
Yeah.
Yes, for
I
the
thought we had a
resolution.
okay.
Second.
Do we want to vote again then?
I thought we did.
So was that,
That was Jackson and Pierce,
Yeah.
second.
All right, but well, we'll vote again, just to be clear. All those in favor of approval of Resolution 2020, we got a motion and a second. Motion by Member Jackson, second by Member Pierce to adopt Resolution 2025-88, the Concord B&C Neighborhood Roadway Reconstruction Special Assessment embodied in improvement number BA 465. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the motion stated, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, carried. The resolution's adopted.
One abstain.
Abstention? Still got the abstention, and that's, and we've got a carried motion. And then we've got, the next matter is proposed special assessment regarding the Southdale B Neighborhood Roadway Reconstruction Special Assessment Improvement embodied in BA 464. Director Milner.
Thanks, Mayor, members of council. Please note again, the BA number on the presentation is off. It should be 464 like you just read. So we'll talk about the Southdale B Neighborhood Roadway Reconstruction completed in 2024. This project is just north of 66th Street and south of Highway 62 as shown on the map. Again, there was a variety of funding sources with this project. The street reconstruction portion is what we're discussing tonight at 63+% at the December 11th, 2023 public hearing and authorized by the City Council on December 19th of 2023. We had an estimated assessment of $1,900 per REU. We're asking the council to approve an assessment of $1,509.29 per REU. We received one voicemail that was in the packet, and after the packet, we had one email objection that came in late, again, last afternoon, early this morning. We have that documented, but we're asking the council to approve the special assessment embodied in resolution number 2025-89 and improvement number BA 464.
Okay, would you go back and tell us a little bit more about the email that came in, the email objection?
Yeah, we've seen that in previous assessment hearings where people can object to it, and that gives them that opportunity to file with district court per state statutes over the next 30 days. So if they want, they can appeal it at district court.
Very good. Okay, thanks for that. Other questions for Director Milner at this point in time? All right, this is a public hearing matter. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to come forward and testify regarding this proposed special assessment? No one coming forward? Is there anybody online?
I don't have anyone online. I know it probably seems silly, but I think it's important that we wait a minute just to give people time to call in if they'd like to. My clock shows that it's 8:41. I'll come back to you at 8:42 or when I have a caller, whichever is first.
Okay. I'll try not to get ahead of myself this time.
I think it's safe for you to move forward with the agenda.
Thank you for that. This was a public hearing matter, and we need to think about closing the public hearing. So is there a motion to close the public hearing in this matter?
So moved.
I second.
We had a motion by Member Jackson, second by Member Agnew to close the public hearing in this matter. Any further discussion? All those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And next, Director Miller has asked us to consider adopting a motion to approve Resolution 2025-89, the Southdale B Neighborhood Roadway Reconstruction Special Assessment embodied in improvement number BA 464. Is there a council member who cares to make that motion?
So moved.
I second.
Member Pierce moves. Member Agnew seconds the approval of Resolution 2025-89, which is the Southdale B Neighborhood Roadway Reconstruction Special Assessment Improvement embodied in BA 464. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Yes. Member
So
Jackson.
Mr. Bolts wrote in to us, or he called, and this was transcribed, about some pretty serious water damage in the course of, now I know this is the assessment, but in the course of the construction, his unit experienced some expensive water damage. How is that handled? Is that a liability, or what kind of relief is available to him?
So when a comment or concern comes in, such as they think damage occurred because of construction, we review it at a staff level. Then there's the option to submit it to the contractor for their insurance to check it out. That's why we have insurance through the contractor.
Okay.
In this case, it was deemed that it wasn't caused by the construction project. It was just unfortunate timing that it happened when our project was also happening in the street.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any further discussion or comment? We've got a motion and a second in front of us. All those in favor of adoption of the motion, and I can restate it, which is Resolution 2025-89, the Southdale B Neighborhood Roadway Reconstruction Special Assessment embodied in improvement number BA 464. All those in favor of the adoption of that resolution say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. That resolution is adopted. And that completes the work of Director Milner with respect to the public hearings. And that takes us through the, as Member Jackson pointed out, the public hearings that we had this evening, all 8 of them. Now we're on to the recommendations and reports portion of the agenda, and we've got a few matters to address there. One is resolution, the first one is Resolution 2025-98, which accepts donations on behalf of the City of Edina. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 2025-98?
So moved.
Second.
Member Jackson moves. Member Agnew seconds the adoption of Resolution 2025-98, which would accept donations to the City of Edina by organizations or residents in our community or beyond. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of Resolution 2025-98 say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Resolution 2025-98 is adopted. I can tell you that we have some very generous donors in this list, and then there's some in-kind donations as well. What jumps out, of course, is someone who's just been an unbelievable supporter of her hometown, who is Pacey Irk, who has done so much for our community. And again, here, Braemar Golf Course, $3,000 donation to the Memorial Fund tournament in terms of a sponsorship, and then $1,500 in Memorial Garden Fund paver stones, and other generous donations as well. All those donors' names will be on the city website. So thanks to all those donors, and a special shout out to Pacey Irk, who continues to be such a great supporter of the city. Okay, the next matter in this portion of the agenda is a potential approval of a subdivision that's been recommended, or sought, I would say. And Carrie Teague, you've got this matter, our Community Development Director. And we're going to let you make that presentation, and we're going to continue the conversation on this matter, which we talked about a few weeks ago.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The applicant is proposing to divide this property into 2 city code compliant lots. This parcel was originally platted as 4 lots. The original owner combined the 4 and built 1 single family home. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the request. There were no additional comments on Better Together. So staff and the Planning Commission are recommending that you adopt Resolution 2025-83.
Anybody have questions for Director Teague on the council? Okay. Member Jackson?
Yeah, so in approving this, are we deciding where the driveway is going to be? Or is that still open for them to decide as they develop this?
It's still open. It sounds like the developer is leaning toward having one access off of Warren, and then the north lot would access off 64th.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Director Teague? All right. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2025-83, which would approve the subdivision both on a preliminary and final plat basis at 6417 Warren Avenue?
So moved.
Member Jackson moves.
Second.
Member Pierce seconds the adoption of the motion as stated, which would approve Resolution 2025-83, which is the subdivision preliminary and final plat at 6417 Warren Avenue in Edina. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the resolution as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Resolution 2025-83 is adopted. The subdivision, both from a preliminary and final plat standpoint, is approved at 6417 Warren Avenue. And then the final item in this portion of the agenda is a site plan review and variance request that we heard a few weeks ago at 5036 France Avenue South, which is the Barrio restaurant site. Addison Lewis, our community development coordinator, has this matter, and Mr. Burnett is here. Yeah, there he is. Mr. Del Prado's back there is with us again as well, and the whole team. All right, let's talk about this matter. Mr. Lewis, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So this is a request for site plan review and variance at 5036 France Avenue South. At the September 16th meeting, staff provided an overview of the request and we held a public hearing. The proposal is to add a second story to the existing building, which is proposed to be used as a restaurant. The addition triggers a requirement to provide 14 additional off-street parking stalls on the property, and since none are provided, a variance is required. Based on the findings in the staff report, the staff recommendation is for denial of the request. However, resolutions for approval and denial have both been prepared for your consideration this evening. The Planning Commission voted 5-1 to recommend approval of the requested site plan and variance. They also recommended that accommodations for additional bike parking be considered, and as we discussed at the last meeting, that's being looked into district-wide already. So with that, tonight, staff is seeking a motion to either approve or deny the request this evening, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Yeah, questions for Mr. Lewis at all? Councilmember Risser?
Okay, just for clarification, my understanding is that in 2022, we upgraded our code for parking, and it was to codify a policy, basically. Okay, and I'm wondering why the way we codified it, you know, we sort of pinned ourselves or put ourselves in a corner where it's very challenging to give or allow variances to be awarded. And so I'm wondering, what was the thought process back in 2022? I don't know if you could offer some insight into that, but I feel like we're really painted into a corner here.
Sure. So it was to codify a long-standing policy that went back to 1978 to actually allow the property owners at 50th and France to rely on those parking ramps for a floor area ratio up to 1. You know, prior to it being codified, it was just a policy or practice by the city to allow that. So by codifying it, we actually provided relief to the property owners. I mean, without codifying it, from a legal standpoint, it could be argued that they would be required to provide 100% of that, 100% of their parking requirement, and that they wouldn't be exempt for any of the floor area ratio. So this is providing some relief. It was to codify the standard or the policy that had been in place. At any time, it could have been changed. We could still change it, but that was why that was done.
Follow up, because I know it's confusing to me because there was another situation and this was in 2023, where the Buell site at 3906 50th Street, where they're putting in a restaurant in an area that functioned as storage, the HRA awarded a $225,000 Spark Award to that project, and there was zero conversation about the regulations that we are raising for Cucino del Barrio. And it really feels like we're not applying the code in an even way. Could you comment on that, or perhaps that's something for Attorney Kendall to comment on?
Yeah, I can just say that, that project there was no expansion of the building for that project. It didn't increase the floor area of the building. This is a building addition, so it's increasing that floor area ratio. So that's why, at that point, we look at it to see, is it increasing above a floor area ratio of 1, and that's why that additional parking is being triggered.
And yet, when we look at section 36-123, approval required, it says that you have to get a site plan approval, and there's several conditions that are listed, including if you are, number 3, expand or change the use of a building or parcel of land to modify a building, accessory structure, or site or land feature in any manner which results in a different intensity of use. And when I went back and I reviewed the HRA meeting, it was very clear that the motivation for awarding the Spark money was to make a space that was underutilized become more vibrant and get more people flowing into it. And in fact, I believe it is a space that was designed to function as a restaurant and to have 100 people capacity there. And what we're talking about with El Barrio is 75 seats. So it, again, really feels like we're out of sync here, and perhaps Attorney Kendall could comment on that.
I don't know if I have additional comment on that. It sounds like Mr. Lewis is saying that the Spark grant awarded by the HRA, that was not a city council action, did not trigger a zoning ordinance review. It was simply a HRA action.
I think my point is that according to code, section 36-123, there should have been a site plan review. And yes, it only went before the HRA, but why didn't it come before council?
My understanding is that the space was not changing. The square footage and the utilization, I mean, I guess the space was maybe empty at the time, but prior to that, it had been a space that could have something like 100 seats or whatever it was. And the proposed use was not changing the number of people that would be permitted to be in that space when it was open.
Right. We know that there are buildings in 50th and France that exceeded an FAR of 1 prior to that policy going into place. And so, those are grandfathered in. In the case of that music venue, they weren't changing. They weren't increasing the floor area of the building. So that's why it's different than this. If they were proposing an addition, then that's when we would be looking at that to look at the increase in floor area to see if that triggered additional parking required.
FAR applies to 36-1312. We're talking about 36-1311. Item P, restaurants, at least one space for each 100 square feet of indoor floor area. So I'm not talking about exceeding the 1.0 FAR. We've got 2 ordinances that are applicable, is my understanding.
I guess I don't have any additional comment. I feel it's a different process. We could discuss, how we're looking at parking when there's just a change in use and there's no expansion. We could discuss that, but that's not, the case for this project. This is a different type of situation.
My concern is it seems like it should have been looked at what the parking, and parking never came up at all in the agreement. And I feel like this really kicked the can down the road and was very unfortunate for Cucino del Barrio, because had this been addressed when this arose, perhaps we would have, and I do really think we need to look at our parking ordinance, because it does not appear that there is a clear legal pathway toward getting a variance. I am finished.
Councilmember Jackson.
So to follow up on that, if a clothing store were to change into a restaurant, would it have to reapply for parking purposes?
In an area like 50th and France, we have historically not, re-examined the parking requirement for an existing building if they're not expanding.
Or if, yeah, so the changing use that might potentially bring in more people doesn't trigger the zoning code? If there's no building, if there's no change in the floor area ratio?
Yep, in 50th and France, yeah, that's true.
So I actually have some questions. When we're looking at a variance, there are three elements that under the practical difficulties, yes, that are there. It's due to unique circumstances of the property, the variance will not alter the essential character of the locality, and is it reasonable? So for sure, this is a reasonable use. But is the variance being caused by the use of the property or by the property itself? Is that kind of the standard that we look at when we look at sort of practical difficulties? I think of like a driveway can't get down a steep slope, so it has to go around a different path than it would otherwise. But is this caused by the land or by the use proposed?
You're right. So typically when we're talking about, circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner, a lot of times it's like a unique geographic feature of the property. Maybe there's a wetland or a tree they're trying to avoid, so something like that. In this case, the reason why the staff recommendation was for denial, and we said that criteria was not met, was because the issue is there is no space on the property to provide additional parking. But that's not unique to this property. It's true of a lot of the properties at 50th and France. And so that was why it was also recommended that, if we're looking at this and thinking this is a great project, we would like this, whether it's on this property or the property next door, then maybe we look at amending the code so that it could be done on any of the properties.
So, yeah, we kind of talked about that at the public hearing last time. What would the process be so that we could change the code so it would be fair to all the properties at 50th and France? I mean, this is a great project. I'd love to see it go forward, but I also want to be fair to the other properties, and I think that maybe we need a code change in order to do that. What would the process be? Could we sort of ask them to withdraw their application and we change the code and then they come back? Or how would that work so that we could make sure this goes forward, but in a manner that's fair to all the properties at 50th and France?
So I think because of the 60-day clock, we'd probably want to take action on the variance either way. But you could direct us to prepare a code amendment to change that section of the code, and we could do that in 30 to 60 days.
Well, yeah, so, I mean, I hate to pass a variance. If we passed a variance, I mean, it doesn't feel right to pass a variance and then change the code, or, I mean, we could cure it, but that isn't really a thing you do with variances. I'm kind of going around in circles here. I'd hate to push it off for 2 more months. When does the 60-day clock expire?
Well, I think the 60-day clock expires October 23rd, I want to say, but we can extend it. Yep, October 23rd. We get an additional 60-day extension before we have to take action on the variance.
And then,
I think the applicant too, they may have their own timelines. I don't know how an additional 30 to 60 days would impact them. I guess it, depends on how confident you are, or comfortable you are as a council with, making a change to the code.
yeah, and so, yeah, to make a change to the code, is there a notice period that has to happen, and how long is that?
We do a public hearing notice and have a public hearing at the Planning Commission Council. I mean, typically there's a 2-meeting process with the council, so I guess that's kind of up to you too if you would want to continue to do that, or waive second reading of the ordinance. That's why I think it could be done in as little as 30 days.
Mayor, I just want to point out, I do think it's possible, whether you want to or not is up to you. I do think it's possible to approve a variance and then change the code later, and that would make the variance kind of obsolete at that point, but it would still be a valid variance in the interim. It may not be the most desirable option, but it is an option.
Member Agnew, are you?
Yeah, I'm done, thank
You want to think about it a little bit?
Thank you. So first, one like very specific question. When we were going through the policy update, whether it was 2022, 2023, how did we land on the FAR of 1 to kind of be able to leverage the parking, the district parking?
Yeah, so that was what the policy was when it was adopted back in 1978, was to allow businesses up to an FAR of 1 to rely on those public parking ramps. And then in 2019, the 50th and France Small Area Plan was completed, and this policy is acknowledged in the plan, and sort of that there was sort of a feeling that it should be continued and upheld, because in the plan it talks about how, at the time at least, there wasn't additional capacity in the ramps, and so they said that if there is additional development, it can't be accommodated by the ramps, it'll need to provide its own parking.
Okay, so we were purely codifying what had been in place since the 70s.
Correct.
We didn't go back and do an assessment of the capacity and kind of the overall state of parking within the district necessarily.
Between 2019 and 2022, no, I don't think so. But as recently as 2019, when that small area plan was done, there was some study, because I don't know if it was a parking study that was done as part of the Nolan Mains project, but there was data on the parking demand and the supply, and a finding that there wasn't excess capacity or excess parking at that time. So there was a desire to keep it in place as recently as 2019. That was 6 years ago. Things have changed since then, so it's maybe worth reconsidering now. But as recently as 2019 was when it was last kind of looked at and decided that it was kind of worth keeping where it was.
Okay, so it validated the 1. And so if we were gonna go back, and as we're kind of having some of these conversations about potentially changing the policy, the code, like what would we be then advising city staff to go and change the code about? Like, do we have clarity on that? Because I just wanna make sure I understand if we're saying go and kick off this 30 to 60 day process, what is that direction for? I personally would have, like, where I would want to see this change in policy go is to relax the parking requirement that we would have.
Right.
So whether that specifically is increasing, you know, the FAR, whatever that requirement might be. But I just want to know, if we just in 2019 did an assessment, are we going to necessitate additional assessments to be conducted to really fine tune how we want to augment this policy? And I only say that because my inclination is to go with what Dave Kendall just suggested of, we can approve this variance tonight. I do think it's an amazing project. It's really going to invigorate the restaurants at 50th and France. I love to see it. I love the overall look. I love what it's doing. We also heard from others at 50th and France, from all the businesses with Rebecca Sorensen coming in, there is overall support for this, especially from those who would be impacted by potential policy changes to the parking. And so because of all of that, and I mean, obviously this is kind of the business side of it, right? But I know that Barrio closed on October 1st. And so I'm sure that there's kind of pressing timelines too, for when I think we owe it to the business owner as well to kind of make a decision. So that's what my recommendation would be, is we approve the variance tonight, then that doesn't put us up against a really strict clock to make a really good determination of how should we be evolving this parking policy at 50th and France to make it as equitable and progressive with the changing kind of dynamics within parking today. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Member Pearson, we'll go back to Member Risser, who has got a few additional thoughts.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So I agree with Member Agnew. I do think this is a really awesome project, and I think in general we would want to consider relaxing parking. And so I was also leaning towards approving the variance and then circling back on the zoning challenges. The only question, which I think is tangential to Member Agnew, how much time would it take us to do, well, I guess I'd say it this way. I wouldn't want to go through the process of adjusting the zoning in like an arbitrary fashion. Like, we should take our time and do the due diligence, make sure what we really need in that space is what we recommend. And so I actually wouldn't necessarily want to tie it to this particular project either. And so if you think about it in that time frame, that we don't want to time box it to 30 or 45 or 60 days, how much time do you think we should be taking to do the due diligence on the zoning side?
We could put our heads together and think of kind of a process of how we'd want to do that. I would think maybe at least a few months if we're going to engage with the 50th and France businesses.
Yeah,
and
that's
maybe
not why I
some
would do it. Yeah.
Analysis, maybe 3 months is more reasonable.
And then really take the time to visit with the district to figure out what do we really need, and then bring that back to, well, that would go through planning, right? You have public hearing, it come to council as well. So that's what I also would be recommending we do.
Back to member, is that it for now?
Yes, I'm
Okay,
done. Thank you.
Back to member Risser, and I think member Jackson's got some.
Okay, I have a visual, and part of this is because I was not engaged in the parking conversation that happened, and because 2022 was before my time on council. But I grew up in Minneapolis near the 50th and France area, and so I know this. I even ate at the Red Barn, which was on France Avenue, and I don't know if any of you other people did. But, you know, when we think about the 50th and France area and just the changes that have happened, and we think about the small area plan for that France region, on the very last page, page 80, it says modify zoning code to codify and revise long-standing policies regarding shared parking at 50th and France. Okay, so it was not just codify, but it was also to revise. And the image, it's not coming up, but what I have is an old picture from the Edina Historical Society that shows the streetcar coming through 50th and France. The reality is that gets ripped out in the 1950s, very briefly. You know, we end up having these large cars. We don't start making compact cars in the United States until about the 80s, okay? And so in the 78, you've got this desperate drive, and you don't have the parking facilities that we have today. You've got larger cars. You've got the transportation system that was ripped out, you know, a few decades ago. And so you really do have this situation that calls for putting on controls. But now we've got people living in the 50th and France area. We've added all these new apartments. We've got people who will just walk to restaurants who live there. We've got the new bus line coming through. So we've got a lot that is happening that is really mitigating the need to have the policy that was created back in '78 literally taken and put into law. And so I really feel like this is so frustrating to me, because I feel like there were so many opportunities to try to get this, the actual code that we have that we're wrestling with today, done in a much better manner. And I know there are other municipalities where they have set up their parking codes so that they can grant variances. And I really do think that we need to do that. So I'm going to stop there, but that is what although I am really torn on this, because I do not want to approve something that is not going by the book and by state law and all of that. So there is that, anyway.
Thank you. Member Jackson, then I'll make a few comments.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. What's the dimensions of this lot, approximately? Do you know? I was paging through, I
I want to
can't.
say it's about 40 feet wide. I don't know if I have a plan
It's about 40
sheet.
feet wide. So I'm thinking, this is a really narrow lot, and it's not particularly deep. I just think as a business, maybe it does present a unique piece of land that can't be accommodated. It can't accommodate parking on it. It's very small, and it's a high-profile place. So I think you could make the case that it is a very unique piece of property and would be pretty unusable if we had to put 14 parking spaces, right? That we're looking for 14 parking spaces?
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah, I think that you could make that argument, that it really doesn't, you couldn't have a business of any size really and accommodate the parking that's required. You couldn't have a two-story building there.
Right.
And it's silly to require it to be one story in a business district. So it's a pretty unique piece of land in that respect.
Yeah, and we did put together a resolution of approval for you and did include findings in there. And one of the findings we had with respect to the uniqueness factor is that this parcel is actually adjacent to another property that has a parking lot available with another use where the hours do not conflict. So it's actually a great, situation for shared parking. That's not a situation that I guess you would say is super present throughout the whole district, at least not where the parking is right adjacent to the building. So that's another thing that's a little bit unique about this one as well.
Well, and there's no way you could bury parking or put it up. It's just too small a piece. I'm not going to go with the neighbor next door because I think the idea that the parking has to run with the land, I kind of like that requirement, but I think we could make a waiver of the requirement of the extra 14 spaces. I mean, the agreement with the neighbor is wonderful, and I hope they go through with it, but I wouldn't make a legal decision based on that because it isn't. It isn't the type of requirement that a variance should, because a variance runs with the land. Mm-hmm. The decision should run with the land. But I think this is just such a tiny piece of land. There's no way you could accommodate a reasonable use and have those extra 14 spots. So I think you could make the case that that this is caused by the piece of land. That's all.
Thank you. When you think about this area, I thought Member Risser reminded me of when she talked about the Red Barn. I don't remember the Red Barn, but I kind of remember Arby's being down there. Maybe that was a successor to the Red Barn. I'm not sure, but I do remember a time when there was parking down there adjacent to buildings and that historic sort of obligation that people had to have parking next to the store that they operated. And of course, people that came before us and planners that were before Kerry wisely thought back in the mid-'70s, hey, this isn't going to work anymore. This whole area is unique unto itself because we're going to be able to build out this entire area. And what we're going to do is we're going to hide parking behind the retail. And I've seen some old articles where they thought, whoa, that's really European. I don't even know if it is European, but somebody down at the Star Tribune thought it was a European model where they hid the parking behind the stores. And so there were 3 ramps to accommodate all the unique features of the entire neighborhood. And I think you've done a good job of trying to capture that in the motion that's in the affirmative, of saying that the property owner has secured access to additional parking through a private agreement for shared parking with the adjacent property owner. The property is unique in that it is adjacent to another property with surface parking, and the hours of the adjacent use do not conflict with the hours of the proposed restaurant. I thought that was clever on your part. So, I mean, for me, I feel like it's arguable that they did in fact meet the standards for variance, that there are practical difficulties, that the standard required to look at practical difficulties includes, as Member Jackson noted, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner. I think we all concur with that. We got, the variance will not alter the essential character of the locality. I think we all concur on that. Where we got hung up and where we're at, maybe at variance here is that the third prong of that test was the landowner's problem is due to unique circumstances of the property. The whole area is unique, is what I would argue, and it's a problem for every property because of the uniqueness of the entire neighborhood. And fortunately, in this circumstance, he's got an agreement for parking with the guy next door. And so I think Member Agnew hit it right on the head. I think we go with the we go with the variance. I'm comfortable that they meet the standards for issuance of a variance myself. And then we go back and we look at the code and we try to figure out what would be, as she stated eloquently, I thought, ease. What was the word you used? Relax.
Relax.
Relax. The parking requirements, so make sure that it applies to everybody. I mean, it may be at the end of the day, we say there's no FAR involved down here because of the nature of the parking circumstance. We're all relying on public parking and it's first come, first served. And particularly at night, we know there isn't any pressure on any of the ramps. There's all kinds of empty spaces available at night. Plus we're gonna have these other forms of transportation available. So I think the best thing to do is to approve this matter tonight on an affirmative vote, approve the variance, and then get after the code and do it in a logical way. And I thought your notion of engaging the business owners down there and the tenants on how to address that parking requirement that exists just based on tradition when people are trying to be fair is something that we can resolve. And so I would support Member Agnew. I don't know if you want to move that, Resolution 2025-80, which approves the site plan review and variance at 5036 France Avenue South.
So moved.
Second.
And Member Pierce seconds. Further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the Resolution 2025-80, which would approve the site plan review and variance at 5036 France Avenue South, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay, and that was a very reluctant nay.
Matter is approved. Resolution's adopted.
Thank you.
We're good to go. Yep. What's the schedule?
Starting soon.
All right.
Demo starts next week. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. In case we needed questions answered. Okay. We don't have any more action items.
Oh, let's throw one
You
more
wanna-
public hearing in there.
Yeah, let's confuse the mayor one more time. So we're down to manager's comments. I don't think we've had anything come in, Clerk Ellison, that we need to be mindful of. All right, manager's comments.
Thank you, Your Honor. I got a couple of things. One is just to give you, it's just a reminder to council that we are having a closed session with the council scheduled for 5 o'clock on Wednesday, October 22nd. And we'll do that up in the community room. We'll start in closed session. When that's completed, we'll go right into the work session scheduled for that night. And this is a work session, an attorney-client meeting to discuss legal strategy for our ongoing discussion with the DOJ on the Grandview ADA compliance issues. So that's what we have tonight. That's what we'll have on that Wednesday night. I also wanted to give you a quick update on just where we are with the Aquatic Center project. It is moving forward. They are out there with heavy equipment, digging a hole in the ground. I think that's part of it right there. Where you're looking down, this area is the area that used to have the cabana on top of it. They're excavating that out, and that's where they'll build the new pump room in that area. Just another look at it. This project started immediately after the close of the pool season and is on track right now. And we are looking for another group of contractors to come out yet this year to begin getting sent to do sandblasting on the other pools so that they can be coated, painted, or whatever we're using for that. So more updates on that to come. Finally, I just wanted to let the council know of an award that a former resident of Edina received. His name is Jim Nelson, and he's been recognized by the National Association for Industrial and Office Parks, NIOP, a very important kind of business real estate group that's a national group. They selected Jim posthumously to receive the 2025 President's Award. Nelson was chosen in recognition of the exceptional service and inspirational leadership to the commercial real estate industry. Selected from nominations submitted by fellow NIOP members, the President's Award is the highest individual honor and celebrates Nelson's enduring legacy and profound impact that he had on those around him. And I count myself as one of those people. He was one of the first people I met kind of professionally when I came to Edina in 2010. Such a kind and important man who did a lot of great things for the Twin Cities, not just Edina, but he was an Edina guy through and through, and I miss him.
Well said. Thank you. Richard.
Well, I just want to thank Lieutenant Schultz, who is wearing the pink patch for October and Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and just really want to do a shout out to the efforts to raise awareness of that and voice my appreciation. If you haven't gotten your mammogram recently, go out and get it. It's an important thing. Early detection is the best way to have a positive outcome. So I really appreciate the awareness raising that the police department do. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Jackson.
Thank you. So I have something happy and something serious. On Friday afternoon, we all got to, 3 of us were there, and we were all invited to, or 4 of us, yeah, we were, and we got to go to a groundbreaking ceremony for the new Southdale Library, and it was a super exciting day, and I just wanted to highlight 2 things that stuck out to me, and one is that the county actually worked on this for 15 years. I was talking with the former county administrator, and he's like, yeah, we looked at the whole center and knew we had to either put a whole lot of money into changing it or replace it. And so for former Administrator Huff, it was a big day because 15 years of his effort, and then it was 18 years for the Arts and Culture Commission. Several people have come in and out of the commission over the 18 years time, and they all wanted to replace or repair our art center. And so this project is going to be a long time, an accomplishment of a long time effort of a lot of people, which was really exciting. The other thing is I've been having lots of conversations with people about our proposed levy, and they've been really thoughtful conversations. And in talking to this one gentleman, I realized we've got sort of a perfect storm going on. We've got 3 things that are happening. One is our property values are increasing because we've got a shortage of homes for sale, and that's caused by a lot of things. Primarily because of high interest rates. People don't want to relocate and get a high interest mortgage when they have a low interest mortgage, but that's caused the shortage of homes, has caused our prices to go up, especially in 2024, dramatically. At the same time, in our complicated Minnesota system of property taxes, it's the weighting of different property types changes over time. And currently, the weight of the property tax burden has shifted from commercial to single-family homes, and that makes the tax burden heavier on our single-family residences. And then thirdly, we have these generational expenses in the city, and they really are once-in-a-lifetime or generational sort of things because our city was developed initially between 1958 or the mid-1950s and the mid-1970s, and the mid-1970s were 50 years ago. So in the last 5 years, I just want to talk about some of the big expenses because they're big. One is the shift to street reconstruction from the assessments. As the gentleman said today, these assessments are real money, and they're extremely onerous on single homes, and now we're pushing that onto the general fund, but that's been over $2 million in the last 5 years. We've hired 6 firefighter and paramedics, originally through a SAFER grant, and we're absorbing that cost. That's about $1 million. We have 6 new employees in the police department. We are building a new fire station that's been needed for, it's been identified for a long time, and it's happening, and we're replacing the pool pump house, which we've talked about, but that dates back to 1958. We've spent between $2 and $3 million for the construction fund and park construction fund to address asset preservation and deferred maintenance, and those are all expenses that are pretty unavoidable, and they've been increases in the time I've been in office. But I just want people to know, I take this, I don't quite understand why the critics are talking about transparency. All of our budgets are available online. You can compare them year over year. They're written according to national standards, the ACFR standards. All cities follow these accounting standards, so it's completely transparent as to where our money is going, and anyone can analyze up and down what we're doing and compare to other cities. But these three things together are the perfect storm. We have control over the city expenses, but we don't have control over the increase in property values because of the shortage of homes or the shift of the property tax burden from commercial to residential. And it is, I take this all very seriously. It's a squeeze. It's a big squeeze, and unfortunately, it's all happening at the same time.
Yeah, thanks for those thoughts. Important thoughts. Councilmember Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So last week, Braemar hosted the Adaptive Golf Open, the first ever in the state of Minnesota. And if you're not familiar with it, it's a 2-day event. I guess it's a 3-day event, I suppose. They do a practice round, but there's 2 rounds of golf, tournament style, and all of the individuals have some type of disability, whether it's neurological or physical. And it's pretty awesome to be out there and see these individuals golfing 36 holes. Braemar has quite a history in this space. I believe back in 1979, if I recall. We've got clinics out there on a weekly basis where we're able to help individuals that need some assistance to enjoy the game of golf. And so it was really cool to be out there to experience that. And one of the I didn't know this, but one of the spokespersons is a fraternity brother of mine, and so I'm there walking around and I see him, and he's on the poster, and he plays golf in what's called a VeraCat because he's paralyzed from the waist down. In this VeraCat, which is actually made, I believe, in Minnetonka, he's strapped into it. It elevates him to the right position to swing the golf club, and that's how he golfs. So it's really great to be out there to spend some time with those athletes, and just looking forward to hosting that in years to come. But just a shout out to the Braemar staff. Everything they do out there is really top notch. And so we have quite an asset out there, and really great people running Braemar, and so hats off to them, and we look forward to those athletes coming back again next year. And then the second thing, I just had a couple of comments on the budget. I've been thinking a lot about just the difference between being in the private sector and the public sector. And one of the things that I'm really challenged with is in my day job, there are forces, right, that are natural forces that cause me to have to operate within constraints. And so I've never had a job before this one where I had P&L accountability, and I had no true market pressures to force me to make decisions in a more succinct way. And so if I need to spend $600,000 to buy a new printer or whatever, which is true, printer costs $600,000 in a manufacturing plant. There's market pressures, there's revenue, there's margin. And I could borrow money, right, to buy that printer, but I still got to pay that through revenues, increase in revenues. And so I have that type of a conversation for everything. Now that's simplified. In government, we don't have those kinds of pressures that are just natural market forces. And so I like for us to try to figure out a way to have some type of an index that helps us, right, really understand what those forces are. Because I think a lot of what we do, and for this year, for sure, hats off to staff for taking the year to say these are the projections for the levy, and then us saying, well, no, we want that to be different. That is a pressure that the council placed, and I feel confident that we're going to come in under 10% for that levy. But that's work that we've done for the whole year to get to that. We could do that every year, which we should, but I also think it'd be great if we're able to really come up with a way to put some pressure on the system that forces us to have a different level of conversation around, do we add this service or do we add that service, or do we say no? Right, that's one of the biggest challenges I have found in this job. And so I have a bunch of ideas, would not surprise anybody. And then we'll be having that conversation with Manager Neal, because I feel like I need to learn more about it as well. But that is one of the things that I've been thinking about. But I don't want it to go, I don't want to gloss over it. The staff did do exactly what we asked them to do, and I could make it personal, as I feel like I specifically said, this can't be, right? We need to make a different, we need to set a different course, we need to sustain our levy, and we spent a lot of time talking about how to do that. And so I think we're gonna achieve that, so hats off to staff there, but there's gonna be more work to be done. So that's it.
Yeah, thanks for those thoughts, Phil. Member Agnew.
Thank you. So I'm in my last month now of maternity leave, and all I do, other than like city council and groundbreaking ceremonies and going to look at lighting at night, is walk around our city. All of our amazing trails and paths and pedestrian ways. And I've noticed over the last, I don't know, like 2 or 3 weeks, there are these large like stickers or labels of like, hey, yield to pedestrians, and kind of helping better orient bicycles and pedestrians. And I've absolutely loved the stickers. I don't know if they're stickers or how they were actually applied, but I think that that's been a great addition. So just wanted to acknowledge that and thank you, because I've seen them at multiple locations across the community, and they're fantastic. That's it.
I agree. Yeah, thanks. So some really nice budget observations as we continue this process. Both of you, I think, describing pressures in a different way. I think we're sensitive to them because we know what other units of government are facing. We know what our residents are facing, and we know what those federal pressures are, those downward pressures that businesses and people are facing. So we've got to be, and I know we will be, just because of this group, I know we'll be really careful and mindful of all of that as we go through this final stage of trying to figure out how to make this town run the way it should run as effectively and efficiently as we can. So that's, just a tag-along observation there. On the adaptive open, I was really grateful James was able to go over there to help kick it off, and they said, I was over there on Sunday for the awards, and they said he just did a great job of teeing it up, and they were really proud of him. And I thought the observation you made about our staff, I heard that on Sunday too, from so many people, from the Minnesota Golf Association people to people that were participating, and they were there from all over the country. And then the young guy who won the overall was using one of those chairs. I think he'd lost the use of his lower body in a skiing accident about 3 years ago. And he was a real strong young guy, and I don't know what he shot, but he was a national champion, you know. So here he was at the Minnesota event, and as James says, next year they'll be back. And I think they're believing now that they have the ability to host a national tournament, or that we have the ability to host a national tournament. And why not? I mean, Edina is going to be the host for the U.S. Women's Open in 2030, Hazeltine for the Ryder Cup in 2029, maybe Braemar for the U.S. Adaptive Open in the foreseeable future. So it was really enjoyable being out there on Sunday afternoon too. And Jack Rice's wife Edie, who's so involved with the MGA, was out there and right immersed in the middle of everything. I put up on the middle screen there, I don't know, Jennifer, if you can tee that up a little bit or show it. When Scott Neal was talking about Jim Nelson, it made me think he was also talking about John Harris, who, as any of us know who played golf, as you drive into the golf course, it says John Harris Drive. And the reason it says John Harris Drive is because John Harris, who spent most of his adult life in our community, won the U.S. Men's Amateur Championship in the course of his golfing career. And really quite a feat. Ended up at being a member at Augusta for some period of time. And in fact, at his visitation at the beginning of the funeral, I had to run to a meeting with Scott Neal and our congressperson, but somebody told me there were even flowers there at the funeral at Mount Olivet from Jack and Barbara Nicholas. We must have gotten to know during his days being a member at Augusta National. Another guy, I mean, the reason is that there's only a cross on this program is because he wouldn't want his picture up there. He'd be like Jim Nelson, just kind, self-effacing, gentle, humble, just a wonderful, wonderful guy, and just a tremendous personality that cared so much about our town and the people that lived here. Gave us a lot of advice, just kind of voluntarily about Braemar when we were redoing Braemar, and the years I know him, and had a chance to play golf with him several times because I knew some of the guys he played hockey with. In fact, as I was standing at the visitation, Bruce Carlson came up, who did the display that we have on Edina hockey that was over several years ago at the Historical Center. Bruce Carlson was on the first state championship team for Edina, but he was also on a national championship team at the University of Minnesota in 1974, I think it was, with John Harris and some of the other people that were at the funeral, including Buzzy Schneider, who lives here but was on the 1980 Olympic team, the Miracle on Ice. So a great athlete, a humble human being, wonderful wife, Jennifer. Our thoughts are with the family. So thanks for all you did, John Harris, for the city of Edina and all of us that live here. All your friends and family miss you greatly, and rest in peace. Thanks for that, Jennifer. And then the reason that James had to cover for me on Friday night was because I was down at the leadership meeting of the U.S. Conference of Mayors in Oklahoma City. The current mayor of Oklahoma City, David Holt, is the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors for this year. And our first stop on Friday morning was over to the Oklahoma City Memorial, which was the old Murrah Federal Building that was bombed by Timothy McVeigh, remember, back in the 70s, and 168 people killed there. And it's really It's really quite a special memorial, and it has a wonderful, peaceful feeling. And then David Holt, who's also the dean of the law school at Oklahoma City University, crafted an Oklahoma City Declaration, basically a human rights declaration that many of us signed off on. And I'll get a copy of it for Jennifer to put online. All the mayors there, I think there were probably 50 to 70 of us that signed that Oklahoma City Declaration. And then we went to have conversation at one of their taller buildings in Oklahoma City, and we had I think 2.5 hour session with U.S. Senator James Lankford from Oklahoma, who, if you recall, before the presidential election was working on a bipartisan immigration bill. And he was a real gentleman, I thought, and a real sincere and honest guy, and discussed housing and FEMA and policing and immigration, a variety of different topics that we walked through with him and asked questions on. Cities are really keen on working with the legislative branch, with Congress, to try to get some of the things done that cities need done. I see a note here to myself, Jennifer, the mayor of Hartford, Connecticut, came up to me and he said, "I've been looking at your website. I really like your website, and I'd like to talk to your tech person about your website." So Hartford, Connecticut is admiring our website. A lot of conversation, as I mentioned later that day, on a variety of topics. And, Jane Castor, the mayor of Tampa, who was a former police chief there, did a FEMA review. We looked at the road bill with Andy Ginther from Columbus, Ohio. We looked at and talked about at a working lunch the impacts of the House and Senate bills on expanding affordable housing in different communities. Stay tuned on that. Karen Bass was there from Los Angeles, who's chair of the Homelessness Task Force, gave us an update on homelessness. And of course, they've got a remarkable number of challenges out there with their homeless population, I think approaching 50,000 people. A city unto itself. Remarks by Wells Fargo about small businesses, which is important to all of us here in Edina, with small business being the key to our success economically. Crime survey, some talk about seeking a new partnership with the White House and Congress. There, the mayor of Providence gave a report on that. And then Charles Ramsey, who is the advisor to the U.S. Conference of Mayors, a former police chief of Washington, D.C. and Philadelphia, wanted to talk a little bit about mayoral and city council member personal security. And so I think we're going to see some things coming in the future here about how to, maybe a playbook for maximizing the protection of your elected officials, because even locally people are facing some challenges, so it's something that we'll be mindful of as well. Had a video presentation from the mayor of Chicago talking about the impending National Guard situation. I wrote down a comment he made. He said, "When we respond with care and not force, we are saving lives." And that's been their motto in the city of Chicago. So those were some of the things we talked about. The rollback on climate protection. And there was a Women's Mayors Leadership Alliance update. We had some Brazilian mayors there that we visited with for a while, and of course they're in the midst of all this tariff business. In public health, we talked a bit about public health and vaccinations as well, so I won't go into any more detail on that. Also, one other thing I did want to cover was data centers. Both the mayors of Phoenix and Mesa have embraced these data centers that require a huge amount of energy and water. And the mayor of Mesa in particular, some of his are sited in neighborhoods that maybe are near residential neighborhoods, but they're commercial industrial neighborhoods. And the noise factor is really quite significant. And I think they wish they would have thought these things through a little bit more effectively, but it was interesting to listen to them, so we should be thinking about that. And then there was one other, Phoenix knows how to fight a lithium-ion battery fire. They've got a special team that does that work, and so I thought we should have our folks contact them. I can ask their mayor for information on who to contact on fighting lithium battery fires in case we ever have any of those here in town. And I thought, because we may see a request, some of these older buildings are being converted to data centers, you know, like you think along Highway 100 south of 70th. If some people come with the idea of converting some of those to data centers, we need to know what the capacity of Excel is. We know kind of what our water situation is over there, but it might be something that we want to look at in advance. And I did get a copy of the Mesa revised ordinance on data centers that we should take a look at as well. So that's it for me. That cause anybody else to have anything they wanted to talk about? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
And a motion by Member Jackson, second by Member Pierce, that we adjourn the meeting of the Edina City Council this Tuesday, October 7th, 2025 at 9:48 p.m. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried? We stand adjourned.
Good night.
Okay, good night. Good night.
And I did not get back to you, but I'm not gonna go to this summit.
Okay.
So,
I mean, where is it?
it's in Salt Lakes.